Welcome to the Reticle Up podcast, where I, 3-Gun Kenzie, will be interviewing competitive shooters, hunters, fishermen, archers, entrepreneurs, and outdoorsmen. Come learn with me as I interview people from all walks of life, in different disciplines, all across the world, from novices to professionals of all ages. No matter what, everyone has something they can teach you, so come join me on the journey. The Reticle Up podcast is produced in partnership with AmericanFirearms.org. American Firearms' mission is to recommend what works. We believe everyone deserves access to unbiased, helpful information about firearms, and our buying guides, product reviews, and learning resources are designed to help real people find the stuff that will work best for them. Check us out at www.americanfirearms.org. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reticle Up podcast. I have Will Renke and Ben Stacy on today. They are the partners of Forge Relations, which we're going to get into and talk about. So guys, I really want to know, first of all, how did you two even meet?
Well, first off, thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And of course, the very famous meeting question. Well, it's actually quite simple. We're gonna thank Instagram for that one. So Ben, at the time, he was running, and he still owns it, his page called Guns Daily. And at the time, I owned a fitness center called Sky Fitness, here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where we're currently both located. And I was doing the fitness thing, running some businesses. I owned a tanning salon and all these crazy shenanigans. And I had guns as a hobby. Love guns, love firearms, going out and kind of letting off some steam. And Ben had this big page on Instagram when it was kind of up and running. It was like, oh man, it's the coolest thing ever to get a shout out by these big pages. And lo and behold, he was right down the street in Myrtle Beach. And that's how we initially met. I was like, man, this kid's like 19 years old, this little twerp, bring him to the gym. And that's it.
I'd like to bring a little more detail to the story. So first time we linked up, we went out to the range, middle of nowhere. This isn't even a range. This is
a blind date, by the way? Like he DM'd you?
It was essentially a blind date, 100%. No, there were a couple other friends with us, but this guy rolls up in a red Tahoe with this massive lettering of Sky Fitness all over it. And gets out. Hi, I'm Will. I was like, holy crap, this is the biggest douchebag ever.
I can see that.
And that was my first impression of Will. But we that kind of broke the ground for things. And as soon as we met, we were always back and forth and like, okay, well, what can we do together? Because Will had the local community on lockdown, and I was growing the whole social thing, and we kind of just hit it off. And then we had a couple crazy ideas. Will, you remember Armed and Average back in the day?
I do. Yeah, that was an interesting channel that we I think we filmed all of one video.
Yep. And then it spiraled into procurement for the local police departments and trying to mess around with the government, which sucked. And then we were like, holy crap, we have a lot of contacts in the gun industry. Why don't we try something on that front? Like, we got this whole social media thing going on. And that's really the culmination of when Forge was born. It's taken many shapes and forms since then. We've finally settled into what we're good at, and it's just been a wild ride. It's been actually 5 years this month.
Wow, congrats, first of all. So when Will got out, though, was he the biggest douche ever?
No, he wasn't. No. One of the he'll never admit this, but he's a big teddy bear.
He is. He totally is.
Yeah, I can be. It depends. There's a lot of sides to Will. I'm like an onion. You just got to keep peeling them back.
Well, I'll say it's really hard to get on your bad side. I'll say that.
Yeah, but if you are,
that's true.
Watch out. If you are, watch out. Like, Will's take his shirt off your back for you type of deal, but if you piss him off, you do not want to be in front of him.
No.
Take your shirt, you mean take my own shirt off back? Let's just clarify how that works. Let's just hold on a minute.
Thank you.
We just need to clarify this on a podcast. let's just make sure we're saying this properly. Take my own shirt off.
Thank you.
I'm not taking off their shirt. Okay, good. Just making sure.
It depends, right? It depends on the situation.
That is true, but that's true. But those days are over. So yeah.
This is digressed. Okay, so my question to you, Ben, maybe this is not true. I feel like you're an introvert.
100%.
Okay.
100%. I hate people. I hate people, which is really weird considering I'm part owner in a marketing company.
Yeah, yep. And then, well, you're completely opposite. So yes, extremely extroverted. So how did that relationship work out?
I mean, I think that's why it's perfect, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's the exact definition of yin and yang. I mean, if you really think about it, I've been very, I don't know if this is fortunate or not, but I've owned a lot of businesses. I started my first company at 18 years old. And I've had quite a few business partners or people I've been, associated with at a, business level, doing things that we both had vested interest in. And I've had a lot of partners that were, as I call, we were both driving the bus at the same time. And then there were people that, kind of did their own role and had their own, values to the table. So at the end of the day, me and Ben being so very different, it's exactly what's needed and exactly what, has led us to the success of Forge Relations at, where we're at right now because of that, because we're both not trying to take over a certain role. We both know who we are, our strong points and our weak points.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Ben, like, what did you do before Forge Relations? Like, were you an employee? Were you even thinking of starting a business one day? Like, where were you at?
So I was a kid because I got on Instagram at like 17, 18. That's when I started Guns Daily. Had no clue what I was doing. If we want to go through that whole story, hit 5,000 followers. I still remember that. Like, oh my gosh, 5,000 followers. And then the next big one was 100K, and then I hit 300K, and I was like, holy crap, this is a thing. It was at like 300 or 400K. I was like, okay, there's money here. Companies started approaching, being like, hey, can we do some work together? And this is back in 2013, 14 era, right? So right when Instagram was taking off, especially for the gun community, and I saw the business potential, and like right then and there, I was like, okay, I'm only going to represent companies that I wholeheartedly believe in. I want to be very cautious about who I work with. I want to make sure this is a long-term thing, because there are a whole bunch, what we call Guns Daily now is like a repost page or like a curation of other people's content, right? That genre has slipped a lot, or maybe it's evolved more so, but there's not many pages around that do that, and I'm not even extremely active like I remember the days when I would post 5 times a day, and I did that for at least like 3 or 4 years straight, right? Like didn't miss a single day. And that was a big part of the growth, and back to the business side, saw the value in it and started building these relationships. I lived up in Connecticut at the time. I was going to school, trying to get my criminal justice degree. World incidents happened that involved police officers, and I was like, maybe this is not the career I want to go down. And ultimately, to be frank, I was earning more cash doing this Instagram thing than I could have as a police officer. So I was like, what am I, let's pivot for a second here. Like, what can I do? Had a friend that lived here in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, moved down, visited him like twice, was like, oh, this is a cool place. Moved down at 19, never looked back, met Will probably a couple of years later. I was probably 21 if I had to estimate, and the rest is history.
That's really cool. I mean, so you chose South Carolina on a whim. Like, you didn't have job lined up or career. Yeah, so you kind of like
I came down. I had some cash saved up, which when you move, by the way, you blow through really fast, like really fast. That was an eye opener.
Yeah.
Great words of wisdom to all the viewers out there, Ben.
Yeah. That's what I'm
perfect.
Tennessee,
great business 101.
Chock full of them, Will. Chock full of them.
Yeah, no, great. Yep.
Yeah. Best decision I ever made, though. Like I couldn't do what I was doing up there, or continue to do what I'm doing now up there, rather. And it's just a freer country down here, freer state,
Welcome to the South, yeah. So, okay, and Will, like, serial entrepreneur, like you said, kind of everywhere. Also, like, where did the bounty hunting come in? So you both have this criminal justice.
Yeah, so I'll give you the high end rundown of Will's life story to this point. Graduated college with a psychology and business degree. And during college, the only person I really ever worked for was my dad, who was a land developer, built houses. So I was always worked with my hands. So I was that DIY guy. So when I graduated college, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. So me and my friend Drew Marisi, we started a fence company. And the reason we started a fence company was because we installed a fence one weekend. So we were like, "Yeah, it's a great idea. Let's start a fence company." So it's exactly what we did. We bought all the equipment. We got everything we needed. We rented a space from his dad that happened to be an exotic car collector. So it's the most strange thing in the world. There was a bunch of bags of cement in this little corner and dirty guys working in multi-million-dollar Ferraris next to us. Bizarre. So we did that for a while. It was great. But then we learned a very tough lesson called the winter in New Jersey. Everything freezes, ground frozen. You can't dig holes, can't put up fences. So what did we do? I think we went to the diner and we were sitting there drinking some coffee. We looked at a newspaper and it said, become bounty hunter. We're like, this is a great idea. Bounty hunter. Why not? Why would we not do this? And it was very simple. You go to Newark, New Jersey, and you take a weekend class and you become a U.S. recovery agent. I believe.
Oh my God, he has the badge.
Yeah.
In my desk, I'm going to do something fun because I love doing this. You got to be careful. Watch out. So I have this. This is dated. This is dated. Let's see. And there's photos. There's photos on my Facebook page. This is dated. Oh boy, I got this in 2008.
I was 16.
Actually, no, it expires in 2008. So anyhow, I was on a rooftop in Newark. I got pepper sprayed. I got batoned, handcuffed, and they gave me a badge. And they said, "Here you go, fella. Go get criminals." So I spent thousands of dollars. I had a bulletproof vest, and went to Seaside. Oh, we trained. We got a Bronco. We called ourselves the A Team. My code name was Bulldog, and we went around and we were bounty hunting people. To this day, we got one person. He was at his home sitting on his couch in his underwear. So we decided, since we made contact with our target, we kicked in the door. Drew took out his double mag flashlights. I pepper sprayed him. We hogtied him in his underwear and brought him to the police station, which I'll never forget. The cop looks at us and goes, "What the F is wrong with you people?" It's like he was a wanted man. Like he had a misdemeanor, didn't pay a bill or something. We're like, "It's okay. Can't break the law with us." And that was my bounty hunting days. So from there, continued the construction aspect, did the fencing. I went into commercial remodeling. Went to Mexico. My trip to Mexico ended up me moving to South Carolina. Went to South Carolina, opened up another construction company, then opened up a gym, did that for 10 years. And lo and behold, from the gym, it was a tanning salon to a restaurant to a lot of security company, commercial flooring company.
It's easier to ask him.
Goes on. I think
what he hasn't done.
I think I currently sit on about 12 LLCs of various businesses and ventures. Screen printing. I did custom embroidery to screen printing. It's been fun. It's been a wild ride. Coatings. I built my own gym equipment. I was called Hudson Strength Equipment. I made dog bowls for a while. I made custom engraved dog bowls.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That must have been short-lived.
I was bored. And then all the odds and ends. I had fun. And then here we are, Forge Relations.
But we skipped over Mexico.
Oh, right. Yeah, I tried that. I did that on purpose.
Yeah, no.
I gave context and I just kind of blew right over it.
We're diving deep for this one. This is.
No. We got another story.
If you want to, sure, no problem. We could tag back into Mexico. So Mexico was a trip with me and my two friends, and I was walking on the beach and I saw a girl with angel wings tattooed on her back, and I just so happened to have angel wings tattooed on my back. I just tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Look at these tattoos," and that was it. She lived in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. I ended up getting married 3 years later to this person, divorced 7 months after that, and stayed in Myrtle Beach. There we go.
All right, cool. No, so you've only worked for your dad. You've never actually been an employee working for the man. None of that.
No, never.
What would that look like if you had to? Death, right?
Which part? What are you asking me? If I worked for someone?
No. I mean, like, I know me, so I'm asking you, like, if you had to work for someone else, what would that mean about your life? Like death?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I've contemplated that many times because, I mean, it's always, people always think the grass is green on the other side. There's pros to cons to everything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to anything like that at this point in my life. So I don't know how to exactly answer that, but I still like the path that I can directly write my own paycheck. But I also like the opportunity because knowing who I am, okay, it wouldn't stop me. If I got a job as a position of X, the second I step foot in that building, I would already in my mind be 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
So then I would figure out, well, how am I going to own this company? So I would just take that as another challenge or another stepping stone. And as the famous TV show The Office, when they hired Robert California, he walked in. Robert California was hired for a position of manager. He instantly got into his Corvette, drove to Florida, and within 24 hours was the CEO of the entire company. So, with that style being put into the space, into the air, that's exactly how I would live if someone hired me.
We take all our business advice from The Office. You'll realize that very fast. Like our entire business model is basically The Office, including their own awards called the Gundies. We just decided to do the Gundies, so.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of similarities.
Which we're going to talk about at some point. I've got that on my list here, but I'm trying to just like chronologically here, kind of, sort of. Yeah, we're going to try. But I was going to ask you about why firearms, which you kind of answered that you had a lot of contacts and you're like, okay, why not? Doing it all over again, I guess in hindsight, right? You guys are really great at building relationships and doing marketing and ambassadorship for any business or industry. Why is firearms so challenging though, and also so easy? Yeah.
Are you saying why we specifically dove into firearms?
Well, why firearms, but also like what's been the biggest struggle because you chose the firearms industry? Because it's really hard to do paid advertising and certain things, right? But what's been the reward from that too?
Well, so initially, when we started this, it was our biggest struggle was getting people into social media. We never had the struggle initially of dealing with the restrictions of social media at that particular time because it was so early into the stages of this is way before influencers. This is before all of that. This is just straight up Facebook, Instagram ads. This is like the original concept of this. 90% of our space they were still stuck in TV ads and magazines and everything there. So I would say the first year and a half of our business was actually spent not figuring out how to advertise on digital, was spent how to get them off of a dying breed of advertising or a dying platform to this. So after we spent all that time and did that, then we're like, now we're in an industry that is completely restricted because of all the shenanigans that goes on. So we were kind of like, well, we're pot committed at this point. It's let's learn and understand how to do this. And then, of course, the age of influencers came around, which opened up completely another door for distribution. So that kind of gave us a huge edge. And now we're, where we are now, which is just total craziness.
To bounce off of Will, in the early days, it was a battle to convince companies like, hey, you should be investing time, money into social. Like they thought it was the most ludicrous thing. To Will's point, that was where we spent the majority of our time. Like, hey, this is a viable thing that you need to treat as a real part of your business. It would just get kind of thrown into the marketing bubble of someone's responsibilities, and they didn't really pay attention to it. And now we've gotten to the point, if you're not on social, it's too late. Like you're 5 years behind unless you can come up with something really creative to stand out. We very rarely even bother with a brand if they don't if they don't already understand social media or the value of it. It's not worth the time to try to convince a company now to invest into social if their head is stuck in that TV and magazine era. they're almost just too far gone. You know, we'd prefer to work with the company that's like excited and engaged and gets it. And now we're beginning to work with a lot more marketing directors that are younger, that like they're closer to my age, where they've grown up with a phone in their hand almost their entire life, and they get it, right? So it's been very interesting to see that shift. You know, with the influencers too. We had this battle of like, influencers as a whole have gone through this whole thing, and the gun industry specifically is probably 5-ish years behind the rest of the world, right? Like the makeup industry or entertainment or, you know, food blogs, or I don't care, whatever it is, they accepted influencers and content creators very quickly, whereas in our industry you're shunned for being a YouTuber. Like, oh my god, you're a shill because you did a video about this product and gave it a good review, right? Like we were fighting this very weird uphill battle where both the brands and the consumer didn't understand what this was, and that of course there were people that would, you know, sell their soul for $1. Yeah, obviously there you know, we try to avoid those people.
Yep.
But there's such a bigger market. Like there's, you know, coming back to like current day, when we talk to a company and they don't understand that you're paying an influencer, like, oh, we'll just send you a free product. Okay, well, I'm doing this as a full-time job. Like this is my livelihood. I can't pay my rent with a free gun, as awesome as your $2,000-$3,000 gun is. Like that's amazing, right? There's so many levels to this that we could peel that onion back for hours. But in the big picture, like, it's a job. You're oftentimes putting more time in than your 9 to 5, and it's finally in our industry beginning to be seen that way.
Yeah, those are good thoughts. So for you guys, with like joining together, what were some of those first clients that you guys took on, or can you talk about that?
Cool.
Yeah.
We did some work with Kimber. Did some work with Gun Digest.
Mm-hmm. Those were the early on.
Who else? We did a lot of work with.
I would say our first real big client was Kimber.
Henry Rifles. We did a lot of work.
Oh yeah, Henry Rifles. Yeah.
Crossbreed holsters. One of the first. So Forge started with events. You know, we'll come back to that in an early or later point.
Well, actually, no. Forge actually started as a procurement company.
Oh yeah, but the current form of it started with events.
Right. So the you know, when we actually established Forge, it was to military procurement and LEO procurement for local police departments and government contracts. And within 25 minutes of diving down that rabbit hole, we decided to quickly avert.
Yeah, riveting stuff there.
Yeah.
Well, government just sucks no matter how big or small they are.
But ironically, it's always been a piece that I've kind of gone back and forth and dabbled with personally.
You're a bounty hunter, so you gotta stick.
100%. Yeah. You know, listen, when a robot gets loose, they call me and I go get it. So, you know, that's the goal here. So yeah, it's definitely, from that point, it was an events company.
Got it.
And then to this day, you know, now we're very well established to who we are and what our branches are, as we call it, and divisions, I really should say, of what makes up Forge.
Sure. Okay, let's dive into the events then. And then I have questions about the rest. But client.
The first thing we ever did as a company, and I really want to thank these companies. We still do work with them. We created something called a marketing retreat, which is essentially just 3 or 4 influencers and I think we had 3 sponsors. We used a friend's Airbnb because we had no money. We charged these companies like the tiniest amount of money, you know, to put their faith in us, because this was an Instagram kid and some dude from Myrtle Beach, you know, so
bounty hunter.
Bounty hunter. There was an uphill journey that had to be made.
Yeah.
And Coltac rugged suppressors, F4 firearms. Was there anyone else, Will? I'd feel really bad if there was. Actually, I have
Echo 6, F4 firearms,
and Nevada ammo. Actually, here. Hold on.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is cool. Look at this.
Nostalgia. Here we go. Oh.
We made this. There's one of our first iterations of our logo. But we had this little thing drawn up by, I can't remember, Pew Pew something or other, an artist on Instagram that has since blown up. But went out to the range with these guys, had this Airbnb, brought in a couple content creators, and just filmed it all. Filmed funny little a lot of content that you would probably now see on Reels. We were taking a shot at back then before Reels was a thing. This was 2017. Coltac is still a really good client. Like we consult with them every single month or every single week. So it's been cool to see that growth. But went out to the range, did our thing, came back, hung out by the pool. Brandon Herrera was there, Rachel B, a couple others, right? Like, so Brandon had maybe like 30,000 followers at the time, that sort of deal. We borrowed at the time,
Mike was there. Borrowed a Humvee.
Borrowed a Humvee and borrowed a 60
quart Yeti cooler.
Yep. Threw it in the back.
Very important to note, the 60-quart Yeti cooler. Very, very important.
Remember that to this day. Very, like, $700 cooler, right?
Yeah, it is.
So,
and I borrowed it from the person that I ended up selling the gym to, who then we also went back into the gym business and bought another gym together. But
different story.
Yeah,
different
cooler,
story.
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
So we threw it in the back of Brandon's truck because our trucks had no more room. So,
I mean, Will's had too many stickers on it, right? And, it's too many lists.
So we totally forgot about this thing, right? Like we thought we were is bougie too strong a word?
No.
So cool because we had a friend bring in a private chef, right? He's just one of his friends. I think it was his cousin.
There's one of the original.
Look at those. Look at what is that? The duck lips.
That's a duck face. Yeah, I'm bringing back the duck face. Oh 100%. Yeah.
So this cooler. Back to this cooler though. Sits in the back of Brandon's truck. We're downtown Myrtle Beach, like right on the water. For those that don't know Myrtle Beach, we call it Dirty Myrtle. There's parts that are nice, there's parts that are not so nice. Woke up in the morning after like on this high of a successful event and everything. No more cooler. Me and Will, I think it was $3,000 total in that we raised for the event.
And our profit margin was the exact price of a cooler. So our profit margin went to buying a new cooler. So in the hole, our cooler. Lesson learned. Great time. Don't let a cooler go. But to this day, we still laugh about coolers.
Yeah.
That's really where it came from. Was that was the big first event, and then we never looked back from there. So it's funny, we look at events now that we run, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and just it's insane from the level of the logistics to the flights to the hotel. It's crazy to looking back, closing your eyes, and going, we had 4 people, a cooler, and an Airbnb. And
we were so
exactly what it took, right? And that's and that's a very, very important part, because those are the lessons along those years and along those trips how we scaled up a little bit. We were able to have trust in companies and, spend so much money. We're talking about like the Gundies, for example, is a very, very complex, very expensive event. And, that trust comes back from day one, just being able to do that many, many years ago to the point that we are today. And,
ultimately the relationship, like that's what we've built our brand on. When we were trying to figure out what we're going to call this thing, like we were sitting, I remember sitting at Will's kitchen table, like, what are we going to call this? And my go-to is domain names. Like my hobby is buy domain names. I don't know why. They just sit there and pay for them each year.
Hold on. You collect domain names?
Not like collect, but
you collect.
If people want them, I'll sell them, right? Like it's a side.
How many do you have?
Well, every time I have an idea for a new company, I buy the domain name like right away. So I don't know.
Okay.
Couple dozen, maybe. Definitely under less than 50, but that's besides the point.
Okay.
So we were like, okay, forge, like, because we're creating something, we want to, like, we're bringing stuff together, so that's forging. And then like relationships, like what we do is connecting people and building relationships. So what about like forging relationships? Forge relations. And we're like, there's no way that's available. There's no way that, because it seems like such a simple name. Lo and behold, obviously it was, and we jumped on it and have stuck with it ever since. Part of the philosophy there is like neither Will or I are super tactical. Like you'll never, very rarely, I don't want to say never, but very rarely see us like interact in that tactical space, or we'll never try to be tactical. We're definitely more like the average consumer, hence the armed and average thing.
Mm-hmm.
But with that mindset, we didn't want to turn off potential customers to working with us because we had forgetactical.com, right? Like
100%.
our marketplace is much bigger than just the gun industry. Like we started in the industry, it will always be our home. We have clients, local clients, and other clients in other industries.
Right.
And what we love doing is trying to bring as much of that back to the firearms community.
And the biggest part about the tactical side, I'm gonna jump in quick, Ben, was we did not want to misrepresent ourselves.
Exactly.
Ben and I have no prior service, no military service. There was never anything of that nature. So I didn't want to, we never wanted to dive deep into that range without being a very clear understanding of we respect it.
Yeah.
I have many, many team guys that I consider very good friends, that are dear friends. I'm very fortunate. I get to train with them, learn from them. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to represent that by any way of me dressing up that. And if I do, it's very specific training, CQB, or I get to do a lot of training with my local SWAT team, and it's more of a respect thing. So that's kind of where we didn't want to say, hey, we're these tactical cool guys and dressing up as commandos. Like, that's not what we want to do. And that's not really, we didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves in an already very, very, very small industry such as firearms. So we wanted to keep it as generic lifestyle. I compete. I've done 3-gun. I've done IDBA. I've done steel matches. There is no one on this earth that can call me a pro shooter by any mean or any type of competitive shooter, because I've been DQ'd more than I can't even count.
I can second that.
Because when I get pissed off, mags get thrown at targets because that's all I'm going to hit at that point. So, I've had more quad loading mishaps than anyone on the face of the planet. So, but I love it. I respect it. I get to hang out with some of the best shooters in the world. JJ Ricaz, Jerry Mitchell, I get to shoot with all these people that are my friends. Yeah. I am not them, but I respect what they do, and I get to enjoy it with them. But I don't want to showcase myself as one particular part of the industry. I get to incorporate it all. So
coming real quick, I just want to hit on this. So Will mentioned his training with the SWAT team. What he really means is that he usually plays the bad guy on training, and gets hogtied at the end of the match.
And they shoot the all living shit out of me with sim rounds, and I still have scars all over my body. Oh yeah, I mean, I've been point blank zapped. Oh yeah, because they get mad at me.
You go back every time. Of
course.
Why are you dumb?
What do you mean dumb? It's awesome. I get to
play terrorist.
Wait, do you understand? Wait, this is real. Like, we're talking about, we take over an entire mall, and I get to be the bad guy, and I get to yell at these cops about, I'm going to order pizza for all you, the donuts, and I mean, it's full on. Like, I get to play. This is the ultimate fantasy of cops and robbers.
No, so, but you're going to have shot up and scars. I would want to be on the other side.
No. So I get to shoot them too. Now, granted, they're in full kit and body armor, which is shenanigans. But so be it, And then when I beat them, it's amazing. It's the best feeling ever when you get to take down a, team of SWAT guys. And, it's kind of fun. Now, granted, that's never technically really happened, but
No.
We can
dream.
All right, I have two things that I pulled out of that. So I want to talk about the DQs. I feel like that's important. But I want to go back though, and this is a serious question, legit. I am a little bit not sick of, but everybody says something tactical. They have to be tactical. It's tactical in every business name I've ever seen, whether it is an actual tactical person or just someone building holsters or someone shooting. Oh, they've got to be tactical, whatever. Do you guys find that just as painful to have a bajillion companies all with the?
Yeah, both from just it's an overplayed thing, but it's also the mindset, right? The average consumer, the non-gun owner, the regular American citizen, whether they're completely against guns, on the fence, or they are indifferent, right? That term tactical already has a connotation with it, where like, everything we do, we try to bring back to the industry. We've been lucky enough to work with some really cool companies outside of the industry that are pro-gun, some really high-end car companies or manufacturers and rental facilities and all these different things. And they're more in the middle, right? Like they like to have fun. Going to the range is really cool. Typically, you can spend $300,000 in a car. 10 grand on guns is nothing. So they have all the cool stuff, and they don't care. Like they don't dress up in full kit. Like they just want to go out and have a good time. Mm-hmm. And when you're trying to bring new people into the community, into the industry, you're not going to achieve it by shoving politics down their throat, or you need to train 6 days a week, or you need to wear this plate carrier, this, that, and the other. It's like everyone has different passions. You know, if you want to go into competitive shooting, awesome. If you just want to go to the range once a month, awesome. If you conceal carry and train every day, even better, you know, but there's so many different levels at with the industry and the community that I think it's almost damaging for us when we overuse these terms, and it can turn off a lot of these people in the that are down the middle that are curious to it, because it feels so foreign or nerve-wracking, right? Like as a first time gun buyer, for example, even going into a gun store, and they have their 511 pants on. Nothing against 511, right? But they have that look that we all know. And they're like, oh, you need to buy the pink 380, or you need to buy this, that, and the other. Like, that's, in my personal opinion, that is so damaging to the potential that we can bring to the community. So that's my rant on tactical.
Oh, I'm there. Well, DQs. Why?
Yep.
How?
I mean, you know, let me just clarify. By my DQs, were very safe DQs. Always showed clear.
Usually.
Always had hammer down. Always was, you know, properly stored. But then somehow a magazine would come in my hand, and I would throw it to hit the target to make a point.
And probably still miss.
And I'd more than likely miss. So, you know, it's just one of those things. You know, like I've got to run some matches and with JJ Ricazza, for example, and you know, I shadowed him and how he does it. And I'm like, okay, this is beyond my comprehension. So I would try and emulate that. And essentially what would happen is this: I'd have a game plan. I'd know my stage and have 3-gun, do this, all this good stuff. And it was laser focused. I mean, laser focused. I was so zoned in. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I had my round count. Everything was beautiful. I watched it in my head. I mean, I watched it as Keanu Reeves was going through the hotel and just taking everybody out. That is exactly how, and I threw in some Matrix moves. I was so confident that I had this dialed in, and I was backtracking slow motion, my one hand, you know, perfect. And then I would hear this very, very common thing everyone hears: shooter ready. Mm-hmm. Still at this point, 100% dialed in. I am just laser. That is that beautiful draw, A zone, boom, boom, boom. Standby, still there. And then the dreaded beep. Holster would get stuck. Magazine would fly out. Shoot something that wasn't supposed to be shot. Bump into something. Run. Magazines flying out. Drop my gun in the wrong thing. Pick this up. Shoot that. Magazine, shotgun shells popping out everywhere. And of course, along the way was this absolute beautiful symphony of curse words that were blaring in rhythm. As my round should have been going down range, it was more of this song of the F's and the oh my God and the F this and shit this and boom that. It was perfect. So at the end, you know, the range, everyone in the whole facility would say, "Sir, can you pack up your stuff and go home?"
There's kids around.
So yeah, that is
their problem. That's their problem.
Yeah, that's my competition days.
It's fun. It's funny because, you know, when I first moved down here, once again, Instagram kid phase, right? Mm-hmm. I'd go to the range with a buddy of mine probably 3 to 4 times a week. Like I got pretty proficient with my firearm.
That's also when rounds were 2 cents.
Right. Yeah. Also, stuff was super cheap. But my point being is, like, the more we got into the industry, it's it's a lot more desk work than actually getting out there and shooting, which really sucks because, like, Steel Challenge was my jam. I loved Steel Challenge, and now it's probably been 3 years since I've been able to go to a match. But
Wow.
Takeaway there, I think, is, try to, when we do go to the range, now it's all just filming. Me and Will have more recently been trying to be like, okay, this Friday, this Saturday, whatever it is, like, we're just going to go to the range. We're going to take everyone in the office out. We're just going to have fun. Like, there's we put the cameras down. We tried this whole vlog thing for a little while that we'll probably bring back, but let's just go and have some fun with it, and there's no pressure, no cameras. We'll shoot some stuff and have some fun with it. But it's hard. As ironic as it is, it's hard to find that time.
Yeah.
Even though we live and breathe guns.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do you have videos from the symphony of personal? I just can't.
And also I have videos of, now I was shooting 3-gun before 3-gun was a thing. Okay. And this was before I met
photos. He has
this
photos
is before I met Ben. This is like beginning Instagram days. And I didn't really know what 3-gun was. So when I got prepared, I had a drop-down mag pouches. I had a drop-down holster. I had a fully tactical shotgun, Mossberg 500. I had the bandolier because I thought I had to carry thousands of rounds into these matches. And I'll never forget stages I would run in my stupid Uncle Mike's drop-down mag holster around my leg that hold like, I think it held like, six 30-round mags. They would all fly out. So by the time I got to the point where I needed my AR and I wouldn't shoot the target once or twice, I would mag dump a complete mag into each target. And I remember my gun was a XD40 ported. My first pistol I ever bought in New Jersey, and I just blared that thing. I bought Extendo Magos, and I was just, wiling out. And I was having a pump shotgun with a 4-grip pump, laser. I called it, man. And I would go out there because I was a bodybuilder at the time. I was competing, so I'd have a tank top. I honestly thought I was Van Damme and Sylvester Stallone. That's what I thought this was, and I ran around like a lunatic.
Now you gotta find the photo.
I need photos. I need videos.
Best
but that got you into it, right? You had a blast, right?
Great time. Love it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So we
laughed.
laughed.
No one judged me. They just politely said, "Let's show you the way." And I was like, "Oh, there's a way. Perfect. Let's do it." And then there it is. Just went from there.
He didn't get any better, even with the way.
No. Didn't get better at all. But here you go. Here's a bounty hunting photo. There you go.
I remember that.
Yeah, there's Will the Bounty Hunter. Yeah. Good times.
You shared that before. I
did, yes.
Oh, like the stuff that we talk about in 3-gun though is for sure is run what you got. Bring what you got. My experience was not as tactical, but just as stupid. My shotgun was not worked over. It was 5-round capacity, load one at a time. Like my magazine pouches were my pockets. Like it was bad. And I had just my cool Glock. My iron sights on the rifle, by the way, there was no other sights, just irons, just flip up iron. So those targets at 300-400 yards, they weren't hit.
Oh yeah, I never hit anything. Yeah, I would just go ding, because by the time I was running out of ammo, I would just look back and go ding. You see that? Good. Next target, hit. And
you called your own hits, didn't you?
Yeah.
I would pay.
Yeah.
Okay, for the Gundies, I think we need to do a fundraiser where if we raise so much money, you have to shoot a 3-gun stage that I set up. I would pay probably $1,000 to watch that shit show. I'm not joking.
Wait, which part?
I'm in. We can split that. Like, I mean, screw it. We'll double it, right? Like, I'm in.
We're videoing it. Well, I'm not kidding. I can't.
Wait, I have to go back with the original swag, like the original gear.
Oh, you got to do it.
Gear.
I believe I have all the original.
Like white feeder, bandolier. You use your hunting shotgun.
The 40 cal.
That I don't have anymore. I believe.
Oh, we'll find you. We have a high point you can use. It's perfect.
Yeah, I'll use a high point instead. Yeah.
All right, that's charity. That's a fundraiser. I bet more people will chip in too. And then And then you get to choose where the donation goes. Well, that's the even playing field. There you go.
We have a zebra print high point. Will that work?
A zebra print high point. I like that. Oh yeah, that's actually our gun. What am I saying? Why am I saying I like that? We have that gun.
No, that's what we're going to compete with. I think it's like 8+1 or something. Maybe like that.
I can't.
Yep.
All right, so I've digressed, but again, that is fantastic. That is the best story I've ever heard. Great. So going back to the business, I want to know a couple things too. I am terrified of ever having employees. So how did you guys make that decision to scale and have employees, and like what were those growing pains like figuring all that out?
Ooh, okay. So start off as a two-man show.
Let me jump in because this is a little bit easier for me. So, Forge Relations wasn't my first rodeo.
Right.
So me personally, I'm not speaking for Ben, but me personally, which, this answers a lot. I've had lots and lots and lots of employees over the years, from, construction employees to fitness personal trainers to
tanning salon assistants.
Yeah. So employees was never really, I was way over that hump long ago. So for me, it was just very simple workflow, opportunity. Essentially, this is what the company was bringing in. This is the valuation of each employee. This is what they were going to bring to put in. It was just very simple, just numbers and business. That was it.
Yeah.
So there was no thought of management or how to do it or how to understand it. It was just simply, these are the contracts. This is the money coming in. 2 people have to equate to this growth. We need another person specifically do this, increase our output. This is our cost factor valuation, and that's it. So as far as Ben's concerned, I have no idea. I don't know what Ben was thinking.
I had a lot to learn because I came in it from the exact opposite, right? Like I didn't have any of that. So managing people has been a learning experience. I think it's a very valuable skill set to have, and it's one you're always going to hone.
Especially for an introvert that doesn't like people to start 100%.
Off. 100%. Yep, exactly. And we really hit our growth phase going into COVID.
Yeah.
Maybe like 6 months, 8 months before COVID, we hired our first full-time employee, and then COVID hit. We had that 2-month slump, whatever, and then we were in our old office at the time, and then everything just exploded. Like the demand went through the roof for everything digital. We were getting phone calls left and right on like, hey, can you help us with this? Like, hey, we're scrambling. Then all of a sudden the government started dropping cash, and companies were like, hey, there's people that are trying to spend money. We need help with this whole digital thing. And we went from 3 of us and an intern to now there's 7 of us in the office and then 3 remote. So we're at like 10 employees plus our web team, which we treat as kind of a separate entity. But it was just a very fast growth phase over the past 2 years, and scaling that side of the business to make sure, like number one, we want to make sure the client's always taken care of. Like we'll turn down work before we overload ourselves with bringing on a new client, right? We want to make sure that our current clients are taken care of, and then 2, just finding good people that understand the industry. Marketers are a dime a dozen, right? Like that, they really aren't, but it's easy to find someone, in the marketing space, but finding someone that understands digital marketing, number one, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that fun stuff. And then someone who is cool with firearms, knows the industry, knows how to talk the talk, walk the walk sort of deal. That's nearly impossible.
That's less than 0.5% of the whole world population.
Right.
Let me ask you this too, with that, do you think that like across the board in other industries, whether it's food, beverage, hospitality, whatever, do you think that firearms is the one where you can't just pull a marketing person to pull a marketing person? Like they have to know firearms?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We talked about that yesterday. The client that we're talking to in Canada, actually, that's what really separates Forge from other marketing firms. We were born in the firearms industry. So with that being said, it is very niche. And with that, you have to truly understand your marketplace. You have to understand how to not only communicate, but also how to distribute that content properly. And when it comes to other marketing firms that are outside of the industries that are, I'm talking about major marketing firms that are in New York, have a valuation of $1 billion, $500,000,000, massive companies, all these employees and stuff. Very challenging, because if you don't understand the proper way, you can't do what is done for every other industry in the world.
Yep.
And that has been the biggest bonus to us, because when we get into, because we don't just work in the firearm space.
Yeah.
So when we work in other spaces, it's amazing, because we take the techniques that were used in the firearm space and we put them to a traditional company, and it helps tremendously, because that's not really what's done. It's very traditional, ad buy, this, posting. Yep. They don't do that because they don't have to, because there is no restriction.
Yep.
You can literally just go boop, bop, boom, boom, buy this, boom, bop, boom, and bada bing, boom. There it is. You can't do that. You can't be like, hey, here's my new Glock. Negative, sir. No links. Can't do this. Can't do that. Can't hashtag this. Can't do that. It's like, holy smokes. By the time you figured out what you can actually do,
you have Will's resume once you
yeah. Well, no, you have 2 solo cups and a string, and you're putting it on a wall listening. That's what you have. You have the most rudimentary form of advertising. You might as well go get a horse and write a hand letter, put a wax seal, and fly, horseback it across the country and get your message to some lucky viewer. So, with all that being said, it's very intriguing.
It forces you to be so much more creative.
Yes.
Right. Like going. We do a lot of work with a couple local dealerships, and we've done some stuff nationally with GM. Going from this to that, it's such an easy, in the most ironic way, it's the easiest transition, because everything that we fight for in the gun industry, like, we have to fight for every single purchase. We have to fight for every single eyeball.
Yep.
When that floodgate opens up and you're like, oh shoot, I could just put $100 behind this Facebook post.
It'd be great.
It's almost like cheating. It's a weird feeling, it becomes a whole different ball game. And I wouldn't have it any other way, right? Like, we've
learned a lot more.
We have a variety of clients that have gone through different marketing firms, and it's almost always the same spiel when they come to us. It's like, hey, we were working with this firm in LA, or we were doing this thing with this company in New York, or whatever, and it's this big conglomerate, very recognizable name if you're in the industry, and it never works out, because they don't understand the industry. Everything that they're very good at, and they are good at what they do, does not work in this space. Like, everything in this space is driven by the relationship. It's who it's very connection driven, right? And then the content's different. 90% of what you can do for a makeup brand type of content, you can't do for the gun industry, right? So you have to always be up on trends and thinking outside the box, and it forces you to think different.
For sure. Okay, let me ask you this. So we have a small industry and yet a ton of players in the industry, right? There's 2 questions, kind of 2-part with this. Is, where do you think like companies in our industry make mistakes or mess up? Like, what are they lacking? And then what do you think that companies that are really excelling are doing right?
I mean, mess up, that's a very broad. I don't think really anyone. The only way there's really, okay. So with the firearms industry, once again, niche. Okay, very, very niche. The focus of trying to hone in a very, very specific niche of that niche is not that easy in our space. Like, the cowboy dueling shoot off thing. There's only so many people. Yeah, there's a lot of people doing that, but it's such a small piece. So there's companies that make certain parts, or they advertise for that. It pops up once in a while. The people that shoot the red light and they shoot blanks and all this. It's cool. It's super cool. But, from the grand scheme of things, when companies are very pigeonholed inside of our community, it's much harder. And then you see companies like Brownells is a great example. Brownells does it right. Brownells, they understand the industry, they understand the market, they understand the consumer, they understand how to reach all parts of the consumer. And not only that, most importantly, they understand the system. They understand how influencers are valuable. They know how to treat their influencers. They understand how to treat their distribution centers. They get it because that is what's needed. Because as a community, the only way we work. So I guess to answer your question, let me just make it very simple. Companies that are making it are companies that are willing to work within the community and make everyone work together as a collaboration instead of separate. So the companies that are not are the companies that are trying to separate and divide through calling people out or doing something of the nature that's not bringing us together. Maybe not everyone's going to do something right, do something wrong. So be it, whatever. Not everyone's going to be perfect. Not everyone, is going to be a 3-gun master and not throw mags at shit. It doesn't mean you discourage them from doing something. So I think that's really, truly it. It's just the marketing play of understanding the industry and using the industry to work together as a community instead of separating the community through division. Yeah. So I think that's really the only way. We can't break it down to products. We can't break it down to certain things. It's just more of a messaging. Yeah. So the ones doing it right work together. The ones doing it wrong are the ones trying to separate us. So.
No, I think at the highest level, it's companies that understand people versus companies that don't. Brownell is being a great example. As Will mentioned, they invest back both into their employees, but also the content creators they work with. Everyone's on the same level. From my understanding, they hire from within a lot of times. I think that's just healthy business across the board, right? Like that's not exclusive to the gun industry. And they invest into their people, no matter what shape that takes, whether it's doing their social summits, which are huge, right? Like I had this conversation the other day. They bring out creators that are small and large, and those creators stick with them for eternity. Like that's where a big chunk of our affinity for them came from. One, they've always supported. This just turned into a massive call out for Brownells, but one, they've always supported us. But two, like I went to one of their social summits early on. We went deep sea fishing. We got to breach doors. We did all this cool stuff. There was no expectation whatsoever. We got to meet the people behind the brand. Josh Corbin, Roy Hill, Pete Brownell came out, like Ryan Rep. Like we got to interact with the company. It wasn't just like, hey, here's my product, go try it. It's like we were building a relationship with the people. Yeah. And that's I think where you're going to see the biggest divide between companies that are succeeding versus companies that are just trying to sell a product.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that goes back to, I think the consumers are the same way of like, okay, they see them being involved in shooting sports or people or influencers or whatever. Those are the companies that people are buying from. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Plug for Brownells. I love their stuff. I have some primers on order coming my way already.
So, I mean, that kind of answers a question about companies that are doing it right too. It's I think it's in the same answer. It's people or companies that are being people focused.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's talk about why the Gundies came around and how the Gundies came around. How ridiculously awesome and absurd though the Gundies are.
Yeah. So the Gundies were truly developed from understanding how to benefit from what we've created from an influencer stance and how do we really separate ourselves from the rest and get our name out there. And truly, it was an opportunity to do something that's never been done before in our community, but yet has been done so many times. So once again, the Gundies on a whole is nothing new. It's new to our community. And that goes back to the original conversation when we first started Forge, was how we were always focusing on trying to show companies a new way of doing things and getting them to switch over what was actually happening. And the Gundies is no different. Every industry in pretty much all space has an award. You have one for gaming, you got one for Hollywood, you got one for pretty much every industry has an award ceremony. Well, there wasn't really anything for the gun community. So taking that into consideration, we knew in order to make this mainstream, in order to have a shot at getting real sponsors, at getting it really, at a level that it wasn't just very niche and in a basement somewhere, and it wasn't going to be able to reach the masses. We knew we had to make light of it. We knew we had to make it fun, light, humorous, but also, serious.
And more than one 60-ounce Yeti cooler.
Exactly. 100%. 100%. So I was completely obsessed with The Office. I think that's pretty much all I watched for like 2 years straight, 3 years straight. It was on loop rotation in my house.
Who are you in The Office?
Background. I don't really have a specific character, just because through every season, I portrayed myself in different characters throughout the multiple seasons, throughout the multiple times I've watched it. So, depending on the mood, could be Michael Scott, could be Dwight, it could be Jim. Sometimes, a Creed. I was a big fan of Creed. He was that creepy guy in the corner. Didn't really fit there very often, but he made those funny things. Never really fit into the Kevin Malone aspect. I didn't, my belly wasn't quite there yet. Sometimes Meredith was funny, so there's so many different, definitely never hit the Oscar part. I think Ben took that role a little bit more. So essentially, that was a big part of it. So when the award came up, we just started focusing on the categories, and then understanding the categories. It happened very organically. It was a very good fit. The Dundies. And then not only that, the opportunity for marketing. The first Gundies was by far the best Gundies, just personally, because not only was it such a stretch, that first phone call, I'll never forget. Once again, it was Brownells. The first phone call was to Josh from Brownells and said, "Hey, got this crazy idea. When do you have a minute?" 2 minutes later, we were on the phone. I said, "Here's the deal. SHOT Show, we're going to host this award ceremony called the Gundies." And he went, "Love it. I'm in." I went, "Woohoo! That's 1 out of 14 done."
Nice.
Now the rest of them,
there's only 10 back then.
10, and the rest of them were not as easy by any means. The explanation, the jokes, the memes. We did podcasts. The community laughed. The community, not on a whole. I would say the first year it was very split.
Sure.
But the other half that was split, it was more of confusion, and it was like a one-time thing. It would never last. It wouldn't be a thing. So we had a huge uphill battle from an advertising point. We had an uphill battle from an explanation, but then we also had to put on this event during the largest gun event of our community, which was SHOT Show. So we went in full steam ahead and saying, okay, if we're going to do this, we are not strong enough to do it as a standalone event. We need to use something that is already stationary where everyone's going to be, because no one's going to travel for this. So we had to pick SHOT Show, and from SHOT Show, now we're playing with the big boys. So now if we're going to take a day out of the calendar, which is a 7-day calendar, and it's going to be that Monday, we better put on one hell of a show, because there's big parties. Glock throws parties. Everybody's throwing parties.
Yeah.
And yes, it was a very interesting challenge, that first one. So that's where it developed. The vlog.
Real quick, if I can jump in, just for those that don't know what the Gundies is, you might have caught on by this point, but it's an award show and ceremony voted on by the people in the community. It's a voter choice awards in simple terms. First year we had 10 categories. We now have 15, and you get to vote for best outdoorsman or most likely to survive the apocalypse. Last year we added most dapper, which is going to stay in there, most dapper influencer, to most influential male, female, influencer of the year. So to Will's point, like there's this diversity of serious categories and more humorous categories, like most likely to survive the apocalypse. At the end of the day, like we're very aware it's a popularity contest. The more followers you have, the more likely you are to win. That's just the nature of a voter choice type of deal.
Or if you pay off the announcer, $100 to say 22 points.
100.
What was it?
Maybe year one. This year there better be a whole pile of zeros.
Do you remember that though? 32 Planksters, like the best influencer award. We're like,
we remember.
What did we miss? Yeah, that was
unscripted at its finest.
But remember, that's the Gundies itself. The actual setup of the Gundies, and the conception. It was just so intriguing from the business side. I think the best part truly was the advertising. And, I was very fortunate that our first co-host, Thea, it was such a natural fit. She loved the Gundies. Our chemistry together from a co-host, from hosting, it was great. And we got to film to this day, still some of the best filming.
Some of it's never even made it to the internet. It was
yeah. Well, no, it all has. We released everything.
Oh, did we? Oh, that's right. We released the
I
final
I got to
video.
dress up. We essentially took some of the best episodes in the Office history and remade it towards our industry. Like where Jim dressed up as Dwight. Me and Thea did that, and we did a whole skit there. The skits were unbelievable. And those were some of the parts that no matter what happened with the Gundies, that night, because at that point it was just a one night thing, there were people voting, the setup, we didn't really know what was happening. We already felt we won because we got people to this website. We got a lot of people talking about it. So I'll never forget, our setup consisted of Ben, myself, our part-time event coordinator that we hired like a month out, who actually used to go to my gym. So I hired her there. Josh, I don't even know who else helped. Yeah, that was it. And
Josh was our videographer.
Yeah, videographer. And we rented a little a little mic for karaoke. We rented out an entire bar, never saw the bar ever. We saw it the day before. And Nacho Daddy, was a great establishment. They loved it. They gave us everything, but granted, as we were hanging banners, people were still eating dinner. So, we worked it down to the minute. So we set up the Gundies hours before the event actually happened. I 3D printed all the trophies. Everything was built out of pure just sweat, blood, and tears.
Yeah.
Probably a lot more tears than anything else. There were many times that we're like, I don't want to do this. This is just so dumb. It's gonna be epic failure. But we never stopped. And, after the night was over, I did about 400 scorpion shots, which is Nacho's daddy's famous shots. And, the next day I had to get 2 double bags of IV put into my arm for hydration because I was so hungover. And that was it. Never looked back since.
And you've now gotten to shoot an RPG because of it.
I did. Yeah. I mean, RPG along with many, many others, connections, relationships, tanks, adventures. I mean, all stemming from the Gundies. I mean, now it's very interesting when we talk to clients. We're like, yeah, the Gundies. Like, oh yeah, I know the Gundies. Like to sit there and go, the Gundies now. It's so unbelievably intriguing to hear that how the level it's gotten to.
This is year 3, right? 3.
4.
4.
Yeah.
We've done.
Yeah. So, and truly, once again, this may sound weird. I don't want to say the word thank COVID, but we are, we would not be at the level that we are right now at this particular moment if COVID never happened. Because we were set up for year 2 at the exact same situation. Okay. We were taking Gundies year 2 with the exact same approach. We're going to rent out Nacho Daddy. I think we were going to rent out the whole thing. We were just going to go bigger, but it was still just an award ceremony. So when we were going back and forth, this whole COVID thing happened. Nobody really knew what was going on with SHOT Show. When we finally got the phone call, me and Ben our offices we were right next to each other in our old office.
We didn't have offices. We
didn't have an office. It was just one office space. And our desks were next to each other upstairs. Anyhow, we got the phone call saying, hey, SHOT Show has been canceled. So we had 2 options at that point. It was either cancel the Gundies or say, let's do the Gundies. And that was it. That was our green light. That was our moment in life in an award. That was our moment in time to realize that we can do this without anything else. And we can also control our own destiny without having SHOT Show determine what this event was going to be. So instead of always tagging along the Gundies with something else and making it a combination, this was now a standalone event. I'll never forget, within 12 hours, we were on the phone. I was like, where can we go? Where are we going to do this thing? What makes sense? Not going to be Vegas. That's that's dumb. And then we just remember seeing this all this cool content come out from drive tanks with these tanks and this and that. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And we sent a DM, we got a phone number, and now I'm very happy to say Spencer and Alicia and all the drive tanks are family to us. I mean, what they've done, what we've done together, they believed in us. They literally said, okay, this sounds cool. And me and Ben were on a plane within 48 hours. Jeez. We flew to Texas. We met everybody, and they were just like, okay, let's do it. And we went, I mean, it was crazy. The first range was a piece of string. I mean, it was so crazy. The fact that we did that, now we amplified it, obviously, more sponsors, but we had to also rush to get sponsors because now we had to add an award ceremony. I'm sorry, an expo, a range day. So not only did we have this ceremony over here, now we had to do this. So we had live streaming, and every day that went on, we added another level of complexity to our already complex event that we were so out of our league. But you know what? I look back now, and we used to say that. We used to say we were so out of our league, and really, truly looking back, we weren't out of our league. We were just taking the experiences that we had and just combining it in a really short period of time with zero option of failure.
Yeah,
we couldn't fail. To fail at something like that would have been not only fail at an event, but fail at our company.
Right.
So it was unacceptable to have those terms. And then we came up with the Gundies, and here we are now. So,
well, I don't think anybody that went or had been to them would ever think that they're a failure. You guys might have seen it, right? Or parts that you could have done better. Whereas we're like, this is epic. Nobody's done this. Like, how awesome is this, right?
Well, it's always that moment, you know, like I remember at the first Gundies, we're setting up. I'm standing on a ladder hanging banners. Literally, people are eating still because we didn't get the whole thing shut down for the day. It was only for our little 4-hour whatever time frame, right? And just like, holy crap, is anyone going to show up? Is anyone going to show up? We had like over 150 RSVPs or something like that, but that means nothing.
Yeah.
And then I remember this distinctly to this day. Tim from Military Arms Channel walks in a half hour early. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know. And then John Patton from the Gun Collective shows up. Warrior Post Society rolls in. Scott from Kentucky Ballistics shows, and we're like, holy crap, like we're actually doing this. And then there is a full freaking house of over 100 people. I don't know what the exact number is. I don't remember, but we flushed that place out.
It was way over 100 people.
Right. We flushed that place out. And that was the moment we have something. And then like Will was saying about year number 2 with the cancellation of SHOT Show. Will, I think it was literally that night that we called Spencer and Alicia.
Oh, yeah, it was. It was that thing.
And they've been so good to us, and talking about the logistical headache of doing an event in the middle of nowhere outside of 2 hours outside of the closest major city, getting people to the town and then 2 drive tanks and figuring out lodging and travel.
In a town that has very, 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 very little space for anything like that. You know, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 hotels.
Oh, I know. We drove an hour.
Yeah.
But probably 3 Airbnbs.
Yeah. Very, very exciting news for this year. But anyhow, I'm not going to go down that road.
Yeah, well, let's save that.
I remember the hint, but I'm stoked.
It was and then even like at Drive Tanks the first year, I think there were probably 6 of us. We got there a couple days early. We were running around with our heads cut off. And that was probably the best thing that it could have happened because we learned so much. I remember standing there with Spencer just being like, okay, nothing bad has happened. Like, everyone's still alive. There's no hold on anyone. Holy smokes. Like, one person drove down the wrong road, which they say could have been detrimental because it's like an active hunting property.
Oh shit.
Too,
yeah.
right? But nothing happened. And
wait, we're allowed to swear? Wait, hold on. We're allowed to swear? You just said shit. I can say shit?
Yeah.
Oh,
Will, you know me.
Well, I've been holding back on curse words.
Why?
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
So, anyways, after the ceremony ended, just the biggest wave of relief I've ever felt. Like, the biggest feeling of success. It was something you almost crave, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's the most stressful. You put 6 months into this thing. It's the most stressful time period. Month out, it's crunch time, and then it's done.
Validated. It's valid.
Right. It's like this. It's this 2-day thing, and then it's done.
Yeah.
And all that adrenaline just dumps, and it's over. And
how long did you sleep after?
oh well, right after we didn't, because once again, like I said, only 6 people. We sent the other 4 home. Me and Will had to clean up everything. We forgot about that part. So we spent.
Yeah. And we forgot about that part again last year.
Not nearly as bad. We had a little help, but yeah. A little. We had, instead of 2 people, there were 4 of us.
Guys.
Yes, but only 2 of them were actually doing cleanup, and the other one person was still to this day not knowing what they were doing.
Is that Ben?
Oh, 100%.
I don't know what he's talking about, but
yeah, that's a very sore subject.
Anyway,
yeah.
Anyway, so long story short, it's been a hell of a journey. Gundies year 4. Last year was incredible. Blew even my expectations. So we're getting to that point where it's like, okay, how do we keep upping it? So we've got a couple incredible sponsors that are as crazy as we are and want to invest into some crazy stuff. So we'll save that for the event.
I feel like Dylan Precision has got to be one of those.
There's a lot of things, there's a lot of cool things in the works. And at the end of the day, like one of the biggest things with the Gundies, outside of like celebrating creators that put in all this effort, we could go on for hours about all the intricacies and stuff. One of the coolest parts for me last year was we did this thing called Sponsor Appreciation Day. So it's the setup day. It's the Friday before. Last year was Friday before. So everyone's setting up, but we also made the range hot in the afternoon, so sponsors could shoot other companies' guns. We had all the activities going, so sponsors got to do the tank ride, go on the safari, shoot the tanks if they wanted, stuff like that. And then we had a dinner in the evening, and I had a good friend of ours, you actually know him, we were on a call with him earlier today, come up to me and just give me the biggest hug and say, I've never been to an event where someone invested the time into the companies that were attending. Yeah. Because they go stand behind their booth, they talk to the influencers. If no one comes up, like they feel like gypped, but they got to experience everything that the content creator got to experience the next day. Yeah. So for me, that was probably like the biggest win, like getting to provide both entertainment to the sponsor, but also the marketing value that came with it, right? The B2B networking, the experience overall.
For sure. Ben, are you Gen Z or are you still millennial?
I'm a 95 baby, so I think I'm a millennial, right?
I don't know. You're my little brother's age. I have no idea.
Oof.
I'm not far off from you, but that's funny. Well, I was wondering about the cleanup thing. Okay. We're going to work on that then.
Well, Will's old, so he's got that going for him.
Yep, it took me a month to recover from the Gundies.
I'm sure, 100%. I saw the glass eyes of Will. I was like, "Are you alive or a zombie right now?" For sure.
I was done.
Yeah.
Everyone hits that wall at some point.
Yeah. Okay, so I had a question. I don't know if you can remember the one thing. What is the coolest thing that you've ever done in the firearms industry or because of the firearms industry? Like once in a lifetime opportunity that you've gotten to do? Which, Will, that's a huge list of firearms.
So caveat, we started vlogging for that exact reason, because we do so much cool stuff and we're so blessed for it. I can't be more grateful. But that's why we started recording a lot of our adventures, because it's the coolest thing to look back. Will, do you have one? I'll let you go first.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's such a hard question to answer because, we have to follow it up with saying so far.
So far. Yeah.
It's always so far.
Yep.
But I would truly say one of the best memories that really just stand out was one of our first real big trips. And I like it because if we talk about the start to the absolute finish of it, it was filled with massive, massive ups and downs. And that was a trip we did for Gun Digest with Howa. So we were filming a TV show called Modern Shooter. So it was essentially a TV show, and we started our trip out in the Park, California. We flew into California. We rented, we had a budget for all this. This is all kind of allocated out through multiple companies. We had a brand new Denali XL SUV, beautiful truck. And from there, our trip started from California and ended in.
Well, we went to Portland, Will. Portland.
What's that?
Portland. Blade show.
No, different trip. Anyhow, so started in yes, sir. So wait, so you're telling me we went to Blade Show? What? Wait,
Blade
so
Show,
Blade Show West?
Blade Show, Howa, Scottsdale.
No.
No?
That was a different trip. Those are two different trips, man. Yeah,
See, once again, this is why we vlog, because we get to do a lot of fun things. Anyways, sorry, Will. Go ahead. I think I'm right.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Oh, Will is blushing.
Because now I remember. Oh yeah, I do remember.
Our 2 week road.
Look at your face.
Yeah. I remember something very, very specific. Okay, so it started off in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
We did the digital advertising for a brand new show for Blade Show, which was Blade Show West. They've always done, obviously, Blade Show East, which was their big, massive show. And person that bought it at the time wanted to start a new one. Portland, great, awesome show. Got to meet a bunch of awesome people. Still friends to this day. So that trip started there. We were there for like 4 days. And then from there, we started the adventure for Howa. And that was filming what we were calling the 1 mile shot with a 6.5 Creedmoor that we built, a Howa chassis, SIG optics. So it was a combination with multiple sponsors. So from there, after Portland, we drove this long, beautiful road trip that Ben hates me because I have the tendency, especially on the West Coast when I'm driving, because I won't let anyone else drive. I love to Instagram while driving and story and we're on cliffs. And I'm taking my phone out and we're going down cliffs. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. And then, of course, stopping every hour because I want to climb mountains and get photos and all that stuff.
Will, you're me. We get nowhere fast. I'm like,
nowhere. And I had I had a sunglass company at the time sponsoring me, sending me all these cool sunglasses. So I was like, I gotta take photos. I gotta do this. So we got there. We got to Reno, filmed a bunch of stuff. I remember rappelling out of a Connex counter, smashing into a truck, doing all these cool things. And then from there, I went to Vegas. Love it. That's where Ben goes into a clamshell. I open up. We filmed there for a little bit. And then, just great time. So my point about the story is from the ups and downs. We got home. We were home for like 20 minutes, got a phone call from a friend. Hey, we're doing a charity. Do you want to come help with this charity event in this location? We're like, yeah, absolutely. Packed up the truck. Literally weren't even home for the night. Packed up the truck with guns and crazy stuff for this charity event. Long story short, did the charity, got robbed of like 50,000, pretty much everything we had. What? All of our camera equipment, guns, everything.
Computer. Car keys, everything.
What?
So that was one of my favorite trips because there was such a high point and such a low point, and it kind of determined, the future of everything from there, making a decision. Well, we had a good time. We had a good run. Should we call it or keep going?
It was a conversation away from calling it.
Was that insured? Those items?
We everything is now. We learned a very, very expensive lesson. I also got to drive home in the back of a truck with the broken window and with the wind blowing in my face while I was downpouring.
Not funny.
Yeah, not the funnest moment, but it's well. If I can jump in, I think it's made us more of who we are now as a company, right? Like you learn through experiences and all that fun mumbo jumbo.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting because we had just come off this 2 week high. Like we were literally went from Portland all the way to Scottsdale. We were playing with McLarens in Scottsdale.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Scottsdale.
Right, yeah. We got to do a photo shoot for 2 companies in Scottsdale, both involving supercars.
Luxury Auto Collections and McLaren of Scottsdale.
That's not fair.
Fly home, Myrtle Beach, settle in, that phone call, drive to Atlanta. I hate Atlanta. That's why.
Clamshell.
And it was like you went from the top of the world to the very bottom. Like we were standing there. It's in the Dave & Buster's parking lot, and we're just standing there at 1 a.m. because we were all celebrating. The charity event was great, raised a ton of money. Charity money got stolen, of course.
Yeah.
And that drive home, I just remember that drive. Like all I had left was my suitcase because my suitcase was at the house, the Airbnb, and that just had clothes in it, like laptops. I just bought this I decked out this MacBook, $4,000 MacBook that I was making payments on at the time. It took me probably a year to pay it off or something. I don't know, but I think that like makes the great moments better.
Sure.
In a weird way.
No, yeah, been there. Been there.
But well, that was at my list. We've got a couple trips that are up there. We went to Colorado, did something in Colorado, got to go.
Yeah, but everything there is just, that's where I say like the so far. We've
Right.
hung from helicopters, rappelled.
That's probably mine. So we got a chance to do it's called a spy line.
Yeah.
Got to hang from a helicopter. It was a surprise. We were doing it for an event, and the Greystone people putting it together were like, "Hey, Will, you and Ben are going up," and we had no clue. And we got up there right as the sun was setting. It was the most incredible feeling. You're hanging from a helicopter by a rope. You can't see the ground because the sun's gone down, and you're it's like, okay, well, if this breaks, like I'm done. You have no control. And it was the first and only time I've ever felt like completely at ease with it. Completely at ease.
Yeah, the Greystone's done some really cool things. I mean, I would say I got to fly a helicopter with it. Well, not fly. I got to take over the controls and manipulate the helicopter in a left to right direction with, very little, but I still had control of the helicopter. Got to jump out of a helicopter into water. That was cool. I learned
Didn't that mess your back up really bad for a while?
Well, yeah, I also got an enema at the same time. So it was a wonderful opportunity to learn exactly how water operates in, upflow situations. So it was a great time. So a lot of firsts there.
Oh my God.
Of course, shot an RPG. That was really cool.
That was really cool.
Got to do like shape charges. That was really cool. I mean, so there's just very, 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 very fortunate over the years of Instagram. Just obviously the people that I met, the relationships that I met, the adventures. I mean, they're just so unbelievably priceless, and they're so wild. I mean,
they are
so unbelievably wild that I don't want to say desensitized to it by any means, but I am more like, okay, like what's next? Like, well, sure, I want to get on a spaceship and go to the moon. Like, why not? I feel like that, but that's really truly
the only way to level up now is to go to the moon.
It's not even leveling up. It's like, if that's an option, why not? Like, that's my whole point. Like, everybody should be, if it's something they want, there should be nothing unattainable.
Yeah, there isn't.
Within reason. There's no reason to set yourself to saying, I can't do something. I shouldn't do something. That's shenanigans.
Yep. So that's actually one of my final questions for you guys is, if there is a dreamer out there listening, or if there is someone that's coming up and they want to be in the firearms industry, or they want to start a business in it, like, what would you say to them and give them advice from where you are now?
So you're talking about specifically someone that wants to be in the firearms industry specifically. Well, I mean, my advice is, one, there's no reason not to do that. I think it's a great opportunity, but I think with that game plan, depending on your financial situation and depending on how you want this business to be run, my only advice is make sure you have multiple outlets inside of your firearm space that you can simultaneously focus on the firearm space, truly love to do it. But if you need to, put food on your plate and provide, I would find other industries that you can simultaneously work with. So work on collaborations and work on doing industries that fit with the firearms outdoor space, hunting, bows, knives, overlanding, whatever that may be. Work on that simultaneously so you have multiple sources.
The firearm industry is interesting because the majority of larger companies, they typically were started by, or successful companies, they were typically started by people that made the money not in the industry. They're like, oh, guns are cool. I want to make an AR, right? Like that. There's a very big chunk of companies that's how they've got started. The the middle ground of many companies is it's not going to be this massive moneymaker. There's so many ups and downs, and it's very politically driven based on who's in office. Like there's so many factors that COVID, right? We had companies that scaled 10,000%, and now they're having to lay off workers, sometimes hundreds of workers, because we're back in this low. So kind of being mindful of that is very important. But if this is like something you're hungry for, you're set on doing, you want to get into the industry, it's your passion. The cliche thing is like, you got to put in the work, but probably the most important piece, and I think this goes for all business, is connecting with the right people. We tell this to all our clients, like, go to every event you can afford, whether you're exhibiting, whether you just going to attend, like be there, network, connect with people, build the relationships, make a fool of yourself at the bar within reason, make friends, and you'll succeed. Like our entire business has been built on those relationships. And
most of the big deals have not been made at the event themselves. It's typically always been made after the event, at a dinner or at the bar, or that's the point where people really get to know each other and trust and build a level of trust.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. And if you're not there, you can't do that over the phone. You can't. Mm-mm. You can't do that via whatever crazy VR interaction. It's got to be in person.
Yeah. The metaverse will never replace that real connection around the bar.
It's interesting you say that. I want to say about a year ago, like, so when COVID hit, I was ramping up to do what I'm doing now, right? I was like, I'm on this path. This is what I'm going to pursue. This is where I'm going to get. And COVID hit, and it kind of destroyed mine, because mine was the connections I needed, the events I wanted to go to, like all of that. So this time, like this year, in the last year, I've just said yes. I'm like, the Gundies didn't have it on my plate to go, but then you guys opened it up to anyone that was nominated. I was like, bye. Like, I'm going to go book plane, right? Figure it out. And like, I got an invite recently for something else. I'm like, I'm going to go. And it wasn't something I had on my schedule or on my radar, but I can't not go to these opportunities, because every single time, and I haven't gone to it looking out what's in it for me, right? I've gone to it like, I can't wait, I'm excited. And then something else happened along the way that I'm like, holy cow. Like, can you imagine if I didn't go? So like, that is the investment, right? Like, don't be dumb in spending, but like, if you have the finances and you can do it, go, it's worth it.
And you can figure out how to do it on a budget. You can do the 17-hour drive. You can stay in the shitty hotel, right? Like there's ways to do it. And it's the dividend return that you're going to get is so huge. Everything's people driven. I think that's kind of my theme for this. Like, everything is people driven.
Yeah, no, it's mind blowing. Like you guys said, of what we get to do, what we've been able to do. And the people that we met are just like chill, normal people that you're just like, oh, okay, no big deal. Yeah. You're like the founder of Brownells. Like, okay.
Yeah. And they become friends, and you grow together. And probably the other piece to that, the other half is like, provide value. Like, don't ask for something. Like, always be the first to be like, hey, what can I do for you? Or buy their product, put some content out. But there's so many directions you can go in the industry. But if you want to be this influencer or whatever, you have to put the effort in up front, or you're going to get passed by.
Yeah, I have said that a million times, especially when people come and ask me how they get sponsors. I wrote a blog, guys. Go read that blog. It's by product. It's getting on social media. It's recommending, and all of doing all that work before you even think to ask. Because no.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And believe in it. You have to believe in it. You have to believe in yourself. Yes. You have to believe in what you're promoting.
Yep.
Perception. The internet is perception, and people can see right through it if you're being fake. Yeah. So don't only go into something. Don't go into it just for the money. Like, you have to have your heart in it.
Yep.
Such the most cliche thing to say, but it's also probably the most true.
It's true. All right, guys. Well, what is next for Forge Relations? Anything you can share?
Well, of course, the Gundies 2023. We have a couple other events on the horizon. We would definitely love to announce our event that we are doing with collaboration with some great people. That event is called All American Machine Gun Shoot, and that is going to be open to the public. and that is going to be taking place at a range called Sawmill, October 14th and 15th, I believe.
Yep.
And so it's a 2-day event, once again, open to the public. It's going to be a machine gun shoot. It's going to be a swap meet for parts. It's going to be open to the public. You can come in, shoot guns, check out all the vendors, and of course, buy things right there. So it's going to be essentially a gun show mixed in with a range day that you can come and participate and do fun little activations, such as I think one of them we're going to do like train with a Navy SEAL, where you get to have 20-30 minutes as a group and understand how they operate as they operated as a team. Get to see that firsthand. We're going to be raising quite a bit of money for charity. We're going to be bringing Battle Buddies, of course.
Battle Buddy 3 Gun. Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully, we're going to be incorporating another charity called Special Operations Wounded Warriors. So we're looking forward to that. And then from there, Gundies after that, and then potentially in the spring there could be a very, very fun event with another great collaborator that we're doing that with. So in the meantime of all that, of course, we're just going to kind of go with the flow of the politics that are happening, obviously following along with gas prices and everything out with inflation and policies that are being implemented every day. So it's going to be interesting. But one thing I do want to leave you with, especially focusing on the Gundies, we have to give a tremendous shout out to the town of Uvalde, because they've always supported the Gundies, from not only supplying food for everyone, but housing and, being very helpful. Yeah. And then taking it a step further, the last year, we even worked directly with the high school with the ROTC program, where they came out and they volunteered to help at the Gundies, and they actually helped with parking. They did a lot. It was amazing. So with that being said, this year's Gundies, we want to be able to give back to the town for multiple reasons, but also, raise some money for that town in particular, and see what we can do to help out for, their gratitude of what they've done for us. And we'd like to support them as much as we can. So yeah, that's kind of where we're headed.
That's incredible. Awesome. Ben, any final thoughts that you've got?
No, I think I echo everything that Will said, his sentiment. It only gets bigger, right? We're big fans of growing together with the people around us, and we're looking forward to what the future holds. It's an interesting time to be in the digital space, so we're looking forward to what's to come.
Awesome. Great. All right. Well, guys, how can people find you on social media, both personally and business related? And what's your website as well?
So forgerelations.com, very straightforward. Forge Relations on every piece of social. If you want to dig back in some old content, we have a YouTube channel called Will and Ben. Which, if you feel like wasting a couple hours, you can go on there.
Pretty awesome. That channel is going to be. I personally have to use the channel because I got a new truck, and we have some collaborations and some DIY builds that I want to do. So obviously they're going to be on the Will. What is it called? Will and Ben. I can't remember what the channel is called.
Will and Ben.
Yeah. And there's a podcast. There's a podcast channel called The Forge floating out there with, I think, 5 or 6 episodes on it.
I don't even know if we made it that far, Will. It might be like 3.
3, yeah. So they're out there. There's a lot of cool things out there.
But we moved into a new building beginning of 21, I believe, if I remember correctly. We have a full podcast studio, full photo video studio. So a lot of that stuff will be coming back.
Awesome. Ben, how do we find you on Instagram?
Guns Daily is the start and finish of my social media existence. So that's it, yeah. And then Will is
just my name.
Just
Will
Wild
Renke.
Dog Bounty Hunter.
Wild Dog Bounty Hunter. TikTok. I hit almost 1 million on TikTok. That was fun.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Actually, that's a good thing.
And then they shut him down.
And they shut me down.
That makes sense.
Totally shut me down. They're like, yeah, no, you're done now, sir.
Yep.
So yeah, just Will Renke on all platforms. LinkedIn. let's focus on the professional one, LinkedIn. Okay, I'm on LinkedIn as William Renke. No, it's Will Renke. So if you want to contact me, go to LinkedIn.
You don't even check LinkedIn, do you?
I do actually quite a bit.
Okay.
Wow, I don't.
Yeah.
I changed my profile photo 2 days ago, so there you go.
Nice. There you go.
Your job for the year is done. You're
Done.
good.
Done. Guys, thanks for joining. Thanks for sharing industry insights and all of the stories, because it's really fun, and I'm excited to see you guys grow. I'm impressed with everything that you guys do and honored to work alongside you as well. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate you for having us.
Heck yeah. All right, listeners, stay tuned. Check out Forge Relations. And do not forget this fall to vote in the Gundies Awards. And stay tuned for more on that, because I'm excited for what you've got in store. I already know it's going to be something. All right, guys, stay tuned. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the Reticle Up podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Follow along on social media at Reticle Up or 3 Gun Kenzie.